Guys, it's Manga time once again. I'm here to bring you my review of Bleach 672, Son of Darkness. This is a weird day for a chapter, which sucks, because not only did we have to wait for a chapter last week, we now have to wait essentially 2 weeks again, because there's not going to be one on Thursday. So, that sucks. But whatever, we've got a chapter now, let's just do the review. Okay, when I saw the title was Son of Darkness, I was excited, because I was like, that means Ichigo. We're going to get an Ichigo chapter. Not really, Ichigo is in the chapter, but not really. It's a weird chapter, this one. Kind of interesting. There's quite a bit going on, and I think we've got some foreshadowing here for later on, but we shall see. Starts off with Gerard getting his head exploded by Byakuya's Senkei Ogi Ikasen. I can't remember the name of the technique, but basically all the swords fly into the head and it seems to have exploded. Gerard's body also totally frozen apparently by Hitsugaya, which I assume was happening at the end of last week when he grabbed Hitsugaya and the wings started forming and Gerard just froze basically. So yeah, we get like literally 3 whole pages of Gerard breaking into nothing, which sucks because he's not even dead. But anyway, yeah, so we get 3 pages of Gerard's body just breaking to pieces. And then we see that Hitsugaya is like completely out of it. He's about to collapse. But before he collapses, Byakuya grabs his arm in what is basically the most nonchalant way of helping someone stand up I've ever seen. Literally, Byakuya just like grabs his arm. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" But he's like, you've pushed your body to the brink with your Bankai. I'm surprised you're still in one piece. And Hitsugaya's like, well, between you and me, I'm barely hanging on by a thread. As he says this, Gerard begins to reform as a being of light. At this point, Gerard is literally unkillable. I said this before. I don't know how they're going to kill him. I do think that this is going to mean that if we even see this fight again, which I'll get into in a minute, but Shinji might actually get up and do something. It's a good chance to see his and Love's Bankai, because even though I still think they'd lose, I think at this point they either need to seal Gerard, or you need the intervention of someone equally godlike like Aizen, but then I don't see how that would even work either, because he's down in Seirete. But yeah, so Gerard is pretty monstrous at this point. His body is just forming with light, essentially. The way his body seems to be sucking, because if you see on the panel where Hitsugaya and Byakuya are looking up, Gerard's body is almost pulling the ratio of the area towards him, similar to Sclaverail, although obviously not the same ability. Hitsugaya looks up like, oh crap, he's still alive, and honestly his face is literally Ichigo. That is literally Ichigo's face. Interestingly, there is a black mark appearing on his face, very similar to when Mayuri attempted to de-zombify him. So I do wonder if A, he's probably going to return to being a child soon, and B, maybe this is something to do with Mayuri, because Mayuri said that he had to shorten Hitsugaya's life to save his life. So it would be interesting to see if this was a side effect of the drug that Mayuri used coming into play here. However, Gerard is properly transforming again, and I'm not gonna lie, he actually looks pretty cool. From what we can see so far, he's got like a proper helmeted warrior theme going on now. His helmet is covering his entire face, and he's got a massive plume now. 2 huge spikes coming out of his back, and the lines of some shoulder pads. Really, I don't think this is his actual transformation. I think he's still in the process of changing, because you can see the reishi being pulled into him. So I assume this is not what he's finally going to look like, but it might be. But he looks pretty cool, actually. He looks cooler than Lil. But he's reaching the levels of absurdity that Lil did. But I don't mind as much this time, because I feel like Gerard's miracle ability it's more believable that he can keep coming back like this. Anyway, this next bit of the chapter completely threw me for a loop. Basically, it's Ichigo facing Yhwach, and I was like, wait a minute, why is Ichigo... Not only is he dressed like his original self, but he's also got the same Zanpakuto toe he had before. And then I was like, if this is an art error, this is really, really bad, because Kubo's done it for like 2 whole pages. It didn't even clock. I didn't even realise that Yhwach was his old self. Not only does he have unfreaky eyes, but he also appears to have short hair. In the panel where Ichigo slices him, it's the easiest to see this. I really have no idea what this means. Basically, we find out... But what happens here is Ichigo faces off against Yhwach. Yhwach's sleeping. Ichigo slices Yhwach. Loads of blood comes out. And then it's morning and the real Yhwach wakes up. And it's like, what the fuck? So clearly this dream means something. Is it Yhwach seeing into the future? Is that possibly what's going on here? I'm not entirely sure. Yhwach's, if it is him seeing into the future, then why is he seeing them as their old forms? Like, this is the most mindfucky part of the whole chapter to me. I will point something out, however. The way he is sitting on the chair at the moment, the way the blackness is covering his body, it's so reminiscent of Zangetsu. And I think that's the point. All that you can see is the white of Yhwach's Quincy collar, and then just darkness. And that is exactly what Zangetsu used to look like. But as for the dream, I honestly have no idea. I don't know if it was just an attempt by Kubo to catch us off guard, and I think Ichigo had sliced him. But the fact that they look like their old selves is what's really throwing me. I don't know if Yhwach is seeing into the future, and he's like, okay, if I don't wake up now, Ichigo is going to slice me. Or maybe it's something to do with Yhwach's link to Zangetsu. Ichigo fighting Zangetsu. I really have absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea. It's totally thrown me for a loop, the whole dream sequence. I really have no clue. I was thinking it's funny though that Yhwach's palace, his throne room is literally just his chair and then nothing. The room is massive and it's just his chair and there's nothing else. But yeah, I honestly have no idea. If you think you have any clue what this dream means, let me know in the comments below, because it's super weird. I feel like it could be maybe something to do with Zangetsu. It could be something to do with Yhwach's foresight ability. He says, oh, what a wonderful dream, a dream so wonderful it could have been a nightmare. Now, that to me maybe is implying that if he hadn't seen that dream, that is what would have happened to him and he would have been injured or killed. So what he's saying is, oh, it was a dream so wonderful, but if I hadn't acted on it, it would have been a nightmare. If I hadn't woken up, that would have been a nightmare. So, yeah, I mean, I really have no idea. I have no idea. Super sinister looking, though, when he smiles, and you can, Kubo's emphasized his teeth, and it looks creepy as shit. I still think his eye mask looks dumb, but I hope that changes. But yeah, really weird sequence. We then get Uryu firing an arrow at Haschwalth, which deflects off the arrow, and then there's basically a ray of sunlight on the arrow, and Haschwalth's like, oh, it's morning already. And Uryu's like, oh, you weren't able to take me down before the sun rose. That's not quite according to your plan, is it? And Haschwalth's like, oh, I wasn't able to take you down, but that's funny you say that, because the only thing I see in front of me is an animal that's basically been beaten, and you're just, dying. Actually, this picture of Uryu is really kind of almost. I'm always hesitant to say that Kubo's art is not very good, because quite frankly I could do no better, but this picture of Uryu is kind of shit. His arm looks tiny. Both of his arms look tiny. The one on the, I don't even know what he's doing there. Is he sort of like that? And then his other arm is like this. Not a good picture. But like I said, I couldn't do any better. But anyway, Uryu's like, oh, I'm flattered that you call me an animal because they're brave and courageous and they don't have any ill intent. And then Haschwalth's like, well, either way, it seems like trying to kill you while it's nighttime is a miscalculation on my part. After all, my abilities are way more suited to combat than His Majesty's. That's interesting. I don't see how he could possibly say that when the Almighty is basically the perfect counter to everything and therefore is perfectly suited to combat. But Haschwalth's balance, that's clearly, I assume he's still the balance. But he then says, especially against someone that I shouldn't be having any trouble against. So again, I feel like that's supposed to be a clue to his power. He then swings his sword. I think it's firing an arrow, but I'm not again certain. We cut away from the Haschwalth fight. One assumes that the Haschwalth Uryu fight is actually going to play out, hopefully after this scene with Ichigo and Yhwach. But yeah, Haschwalth fires something at Uryu anyway. Uryu is in pretty bad shape, I have to be honest. Which again, throwing me for a loop here, Kubo, because unless Yhwach was talking absolute bollocks, Uryu is supposed to be super, super powerful at this point. So, how powerful is Haschwalth? Uryu is supposed to, I don't know. I don't know, man. But basically, yeah, Haschwalth fires something at Uryu, and then we cut away again. So really, this chapter so far has been totally weird. Obviously, the Gerard thing is fair enough. I don't know how he's going to die. The dream with Yhwach is so weird. And then Haschwalth and Uryu. And now we get Ichigo and Orihime for real this time, coming into the front of Yhwach's throne room. Not gonna lie, awesome looking door. If you take one thing away from this chapter, that is a very cool looking door. But Ichigo's like, okay, we're here, and then they go in, and Uryu's like, and Ichigo's like, oh, it's a bit unfair that there's 2 against 1. He says, you're going to be in charge of defense. Don't let me down, Inoue. And then we get a moment that's very similar to Rukia and Byakuya back in the As Not fight, where Orihime's like, oh my god, at long last, I'm finally able to fight alongside and protect Kurosaki-kun, since she's obviously going to be using the shield to defend him. But I'm not sure that's a good sign. I feel like she's probably not going to die. There's no way Kubo would kill Orihime, but that's a bit of it is a death flag, but I don't think she'll die. So it's a bad omen flag. Her getting her hopes up about protecting Ichigo. I think it's a bad sign. But either way, Ichigo pushes open the door and he faces off against Yhwach. This time in the right. I feel like the fact that Kubo has effectively mirrored the dream with this present day one is because in the dream you get that Ichigo's back, Yhwach in the background. Now we have Ichigo's back, Yhwach in the background, and if Yhwach hadn't woken himself up, Ichigo would have just cut him. I feel like that is kind of what Kubo was going for, and Yhwach was like, "What took you so long? I've been waiting patiently for your arrival, my child of darkness," and that's the end of the chapter. Obviously, Ichigo's not really his child; it's just Yhwach talks very figuratively about a lot of things. So I do feel like maybe that dream sequence was Yhwach looking into the future, but then it's just super weird that Ichigo would be wearing his old clothes, and yeah, I don't understand that at all. But I feel like the fact that the final page had a panel that was almost exactly mirroring that of the dream earlier is supposed to show that Yhwach correctly predicted the events and changed them to fit him. I feel like that's supposed to be what's going on there. Uryu versus Haschwalth, I hope that actually turns into an actual fight. I'm assuming here the next week is going to be mostly Ichigo and Yhwach. I don't think they're going to start fighting. I think there'll be a bit of chat. Then maybe back to Uryu and Haschwalth. I feel like Kubo might show us Chan, Ganju, and hopefully the Fallbringers, but yeah, not entirely sure what's going on at the moment. There's a lot of weird stuff happening at once. It feels like we're building to a point where we might start getting some answers. Would be nice. Since the Soul King's heart is still alive as well, I would like to get some answers there. Orihime getting... I feel like I should talk more about that, but there's not really a lot to talk about. It doesn't feel like... I know she's done a bit of training, but she's barely been in this arc, so this kind of revelation doesn't necessarily feel earned. This kind of character change doesn't feel earned. So yeah, the fact that Orihime is kind of just suddenly like, oh, I can finally fight alongside Kurosaki-kun, but you've not done anything in this arc, so... where's that come from? So that's a bit weird. I do feel like that's a precursor to one of them or both of them getting annihilated pretty soon. But we will have to see. As for the chapter, it wasn't bad. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. It didn't blow me away. It didn't knock my socks off like Ichigo arriving to face Yhwach should have done. It makes me feel like this is not the final fight. Again, I'm always thinking that, but when it's the final battle, Kubo will let you know it's the final battle. Nothing... When Ichigo arrived in Karakura behind Aizen, just after Tosen died, it didn't feel like a final fight. But when Ichigo arrived from the Dangai smashing onto the ground with Isshin over his shoulder and Aizen in butterfly mode about to go ham on everyone, that felt like a final battle. You were like, oh shit, shit's going down. So this does not feel like a final fight to me, but we will see. We'll see where it goes. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you thought of every individual section. What do you think about Gerard still being in the fight? What more does he have to offer the story? What do you think about Uryu versus Haschwalth? Please tell me what you think about the dream sequence with Yhwach. Very weird. And what do you think about the final potential battle? Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up quickly. I just literally remembered it. Kubo seems to be pulling the architecture of Varvelt out of his ass. Like, seriously. When Yhwach creates Varvelt and his throne room, and it is the same throne room because we see the Stermans kneeling to him in it, Giselle and Lil Toto arrive and engage him in some form of battle. Giselle and Lil Toto die on a balcony. They're outside, and they collapse to the ground. It's almost as though they tried to get into the throne room and basically didn't even make it in. Yhwach just killed them on the spot. But then Yhwach walks back, sits down on his throne, and is still facing Lil Toto's collapsed body on a balcony, and he says, oh, I can finally go back to sleep. But there's clearly no balcony in sight. This is just one massive throne room by the looks of things. Ichigo is coming in facing Yhwach directly from a big door, one would assume that the balcony was on the side of the room. So, yeah, I don't know, weird. It's weird, but oh well, who cares, you know. Architectural inconsistencies, I don't think are that big a deal. But anyway, let me know, guys, in the comments below what you thought of the chapter, and until next time, see you then.